Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press conference to conclude this first full day of the informal JAI Council with Belgian Minister of Home Affairs Annelies Verlinde, Secretary of State for Asylum and Migration Nicole de Moor, and European Commissioner for Home Affairs Johansson. All three will give a declaration first, and then we'll have some time for questions. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, and a very warm welcome to everyone here in the room and also everyone who is following us on the live stream. Thank you for attending this press conference on the Home Affairs part of the informal JAI Council today in Brussels. We started the morning session with a session on migration chaired by my colleague Nicole de Moor, State Secretary for Asylum and Migration, and she will debrief you on what has been discussed. And I took over the lunch discussion, which focused on the malicious use of artificial intelligence, including through the use of deep fakes and the possible dangers of AI for security in Europe. In the afternoon, I chaired this session on tackling organized crime. And for that, I would first like to return to what happened yesterday. We have all gathered at the Port of Antwerp-Bruges headquarters for the launch of a unique public-private partnership, the European Ports Alliance. Drug trafficking represents one of the most serious internal security challenges facing Europe today. Its extent and worldwide spread call for strong and sustainable action between all the relevant stakeholders. The fight against international organized crime is one of the main priorities of the Belgian presidency of the EU. On the basis of the EU roadmap, we have identified 10 priority actions that will guide our efforts in the coming months. One of these priorities is to strengthen our resilience of our logistic platforms. I'm therefore delighted that yesterday, in close collaboration with the European Commission, we have reached an important milestone with the launch of the European Ports Alliance. Together, we will work on operational and specific solutions to prevent criminal networks from infiltrating and exploiting our European ports for drug trafficking. We will promote a level playing field within the EU by ensuring that all the EU ports have the best possible protection against drug trafficking. This vision includes sharing and promoting best practices and working together on concrete solutions to increase the resilience of our ports, such as ensuring the quality of the information exchange between law enforcement authorities and our ports and identifying efficient anti-corruption measures. During the discussion, the importance of strengthening international collaboration and synergies with Latin America was mentioned. We're looking forward to the EU Classy senior official meetings which the presidency will host at the end of May. And by extension, I would like to express our concern and support to Ecuador. The situation in Ecuador in recent weeks illustrates the extreme forms that drug violence can take, partially as a result of the authorities fighting against drug gangs. Today, I also addressed the need for further development and implementation of the administrative approach, which allows local authorities to take concrete measures such as refusing licenses or permits in order to prevent organized crime networks from exploiting our legal business structures and undermining the legal economy. Differences in national frameworks and practices complicate cross-border collaboration in this area. The purpose of our discussion was to raise awareness and exchange best practices. And the Belgian presidency believes it might be worthwhile to examine the possibility for an EU legal framework for cross-border sharing of information for the purpose of taking administrative measures against organized crime. We also discussed this afternoon the prevention of recruitment of minors by criminal networks. Recent events have shown that minors are increasingly being exploited by criminal networks to carry out criminal activities, as they are easy to recruit and get lower or not even any criminal sanctions at all. To protect minors and disrupt this alarming trend, it's crucial to invest in effective crime prevention policies and tools. We must remain attentive to this issue. We also need to look at the role of online platforms in recruiting youngsters, also in the framework of the EU Internet Forum. As our deliberations underscore, it's a complex problem, interwoven with various policy areas. Nevertheless, we must take decisive actions. During the lunch discussion, we dealt with deep fakes, mis- and disinformation, the use of AI by criminal organizations, and the impact on law enforcement authorities. It's crucial that in addition to recognizing the opportunities presented by AI, we also acknowledge the threats and allocate resources to advanced security measures, fostering collaboration and coordinated efforts among law enforcement agencies, security experts, and AI developers to counter the risks. Security measures must not come as an aftermath of events, but demand a forward-looking approach, especially when it comes to a fast-growing innovation like AI. There is a clear need for a legal framework. Not only criminal organizations, but also hybrid actors can use AI to leverage disinformation to manipulate public opinion, undermine trust in society, and foster polarization. 2024 holds significant importance as an electoral year with a record number of voters globally participating in the polls. This underscores the timeliness and relevance of the ongoing debate. AI cannot and must not be used as a catalyst for polarization and radicalism. Katrien de Bolle, Executive Director of Europol, gave a keynote speech on the topic of AI and law enforcement. Together with two innovation technology experts from her agency, she elaborated on the threats to internal security of the criminal use and abuse of AI. The discussions have shown that we all recognize the risks coming from criminal use of AI and that there is a need to invest in the right tools and advanced security measures as cyber attacks will become increasingly more complicated. Our law enforcement authorities and the broader society need to get the opportunity to learn the right skills in order to understand the possibilities, risks, and limits of AI. Only through education we can create resilience and in the end limit the needed resources to fight the malicious use of AI. Today, I saw and I felt the clear willingness to make joint efforts to work together on all the topics we discussed, because if not now, then when? Thank you so much for your attention, and I will now give the floor to Nicole de Moor. Thank you.
Thank you, Annelies. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, thank you for joining us today. And I join my colleague, Minister Verlinden, in her analysis that we had a very successful informal meeting today here in Brussels. And the atmosphere during our discussions was one of cooperation and determination. And it was a true pleasure welcoming our colleagues in Brussels here in the beautiful and historical setting of the Egmont Palace. I would like to brief you on the discussions that happened today on the topics of asylum and migration. As you know, I've put two items on the agenda. First, a situational update on the migration situation and, of course, on the European Pact on Asylum and Migration. And then a reflection exercise on the future of Ukrainian refugees in Europe and possible complementary or alternative measures for temporary protection for people from Ukraine. Now, with regard to the first agenda item, I briefed together with the Commissioner, the colleagues on the current migration picture and the challenges we are facing today. This included an overview of where we stand on the discussions on the EU Pact on Asylum and Migration, following, of course, the political deal that was reached in December in the trilogues. And you know, this was the first time that we saw each other again at ministerial level since we made that deal. So it was necessary to have a stock-taking discussion. And this gave me also the opportunity to give more insights on where we are with the Belgian presidency and the agenda for the coming weeks and months, because we have to turn this political deal now into a formal agreement. So we are working very hard to finalize all the legislative work. Now, on that finalization, I informed the Council that since January, the technical discussions have continued with high intensity by both co-legislators and the Commission, and in a good spirit. So we are confident to land all files in time. Now, of course, following the adoption or the formal adoption of the pact, the Belgian presidency will intensify the discussion on the operationalization, the implementation of the pact. And we need to start making blueprints, for example, for the actual putting in place of the legislative documents in cooperation, of course, with the European agencies such as Frontex and the EU Asylum Agency. As announced already during the last Council meeting at the end of April, from the 28th to the 30th, and following the vote in Parliament, I will also host a ministerial meeting in the beautiful city of Ghent, specifically dedicated to the operationalization of the new Pact on Asylum and Migration. I think it is of the utmost importance that this historical reform is not only agreed on paper, but that it will also fundamentally change the way how we deal with asylum and migration on the ground, at the external borders, but also within our territories. And we know the agreement will not change the whole situation on the ground from day one after its adoption, but we are fully committed to implement what we have decided, and we need to start making concrete steps in that direction from now on. And the reforms we are realizing today ultimately will lead to a better management of migration in the European Union. I think European citizens deserve it, as well as people seeking protection in Europe deserve this. Now, a second agenda item on today's agenda was a forward-looking discussion on the temporary protection for those fleeing the Russian aggression in Ukraine. Good politicians need to be prepared for the future. So once again, we confirmed our solidarity with Ukraine and its citizens. We have always stood shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, and we will continue to do so. And we have provided Ukrainian people with humanitarian support, assistance, as well as refuge in the European Union, and clearly we will continue to do so as long as necessary. Ministers recalled today their commitment to Ukraine and its citizens, and we also stressed the need for a European harmonization in this field. And we agreed that adopting 27 different national legislations on this topic would be counterproductive, would also result in secondary movements and cause uncertainty for the people involved. So the Commission and the Member States decided to continue this discussion, including together with the Ukrainian authorities, in order to jointly take a decision in the nearby future. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to pass the floor now to Commissioner Johansson.
Thank you very much. And can I first congratulate you, Annelies, and you, Nicole. I think this has been an excellent start of the Belgian presidency in the area of security and migration. And we have had very good informal council discussions here. And I must say that the atmosphere in the room was really encouraging, and we can feel the trust between ministers, and they feel free to have an open and very constructive debate together to find common solutions to common challenges. And this has not been from the beginning. I remember when I started as commissioner, it was really a totally different atmosphere in this council, and my task was to unblock the block situation. And now we are, I think, the best proof of the situation and the atmosphere among ministers is that we achieved this historic moment just before Christmas, when a big majority of member states and Parliament could agree on the new pact on migration and asylum. It's really a comprehensive, huge pact with a lot of legal parts in it, and I think this has been thanks to the trust that have been built up among during the years. But now you can also feel how you can are strengthening these trust in under your leadership in this discussion that we had today. A few words on the topics that you already explained very well. First on what needs to be done additional to the pact. The pact will be an important part of managing migration orderly. But we need to add to the pact also the fight against the smugglers. And that's why I also reported what I did with the Global Alliance Against Migrant Smuggling in late November, and how we are following up on that. Second, we need to step up on returns. And this is very much under your radar also, Nicole. And now we are doing a lot more under the roadmap for returns, and we can also see progress in this area. Third, we need to work with partner countries, both to prevent dangerous departures, but also to invest in legal pathways. And these, together with the pact, will make us possible for us to manage migration in an orderly way. We had a very good debate and discussion, open discussion, on the Ukrainians. With everybody expressed, of course, the solidarity with Ukraine and the Ukrainians, and we have the temporary protection that will last until March 2025. But we need to start a discussion now on what will come after. How will we continue to support the Ukrainians in collaboration and partnership with the Ukrainian authorities? And I think under your leadership, Nicole, there was a very good discussion on this. Then we came to the lunch, and I must say that how you, Annelies, had set up this discussion was really impressive. We had this keynote speak by Europol, and they showed us also how the generative AI is being used today, and how easy it is. How a lot of these tools are free or very, very cheap, and you don't need any knowledge really to use them, and you can use them for severe crimes. That is very difficult for police to investigate and dismantle. And I think how you set this up also put an atmosphere for the discussion that was very fruitful. And also searching for the role of politicians, because we are not the technicians, we are not the law enforcement, we are the politicians. What is our role in this? And I think that this discussion will continue, and it's necessary to do so. Just to highlight two things that I think is important. One is that Europol today has a very strong mandate to work with AI tools, and they have set up last year in Innovation Lab. And I encourage member states to take part in this Innovation Lab to learn more and to help these tools and use the support they can get from Europol. Second, I also raised the importance that we should have security by design for all new initiatives that we take. That security cannot be an aftermath. It has to come already from the beginning. And then we had this very important discussion on fighting organized criminal networks and the drug trafficking, which was, of course, a follow-up of the successful launch of the Ports Alliance in Antwerp yesterday, where we had this huge commitment from all the stakeholders. And I reiterated the roadmap that I presented in October with 17 actions to counter organized crime and drug trafficking. And I'm very much appreciate that you have prioritized this under your presidency, Annelies, and how you are also picking up that we should deliver on this roadmap and the specific things. Two things I would like to mention under this. One is the good cooperation with Latin America. That is absolutely crucial. I fully agree what you said about Ecuador, and it's important to see that we need to strengthen the police cooperation with a lot of these Latin American countries, and we are doing so, and this is important. Second, I think what we did last year was an innovative actions from the Commission together with Member States for the Schengen evaluation. We had a thematic Schengen evaluation on the security of the ports. And this had now led to some conclusions and lessons learned that the Commission has adopted as a Council recommendation. We also discussed the recruitment of children into organized criminal groups. And this is a topic that is very close to my heart, I must say. These vulnerable children are being recruited very young. We see children as young as 8, 9, 10 years old are being recruited by the criminal gangs. We see children like 15, 16, 17-year-old committing murders. And this, I think, these children are often also using drugs to be able to commit these terrible violence and terrible crimes. And I think these children are committing terrible crimes, but they're also victims themselves. So they are a bit like child soldiers. And we had a very good discussion on how to prevent the criminal groups from recruiting these children in the first place. Because as you rightly said, Annelies, when they are being recruited very young, so if you reach them when they are 18 or 20, it's very, very difficult to change their criminal path. So this was, I think, a very good discussion that we have. So again, congratulations.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
So we have some time for questions now. Please state your name and your media first.
Thank you very much. My name is Olena Abramovich. I work for Ukrainian service of Radio Free Europe. And I have a, thank you for giving me the floor. I have a question both for presidency and to the commissioner. For presidency, did any of you or your colleagues had any contacts with Ukrainian authorities regarding their vision of the future of Ukrainians in EU? Were there any kind of request to help to return Ukrainians back home? Maybe there were some thoughts about cutting the social aid. So what kind of vision from Ukraine do you get? And to the Commissioner, have you already, has European Commission started drafting any kind of decision, or maybe just discussing what kind of ideas are floating there? Thank you.
So thank you for your question. As I mentioned, today we had a first reflection exercise on the future. We know, well, currently the temporary protection is foreseen to end in March 2025. It's what is currently foreseen. So we cannot postpone this discussion because March 2025 will be there sooner than we think. And that's why I've put this on the agenda with the support of all colleagues and also the Commission. It was important to have a reflection, and all member states recognized that Ukrainian authorities are partners in it, and in this, just as Ukrainian displaced persons are. They are not just the topic we are talking about. They are our partner in this. So, of course, in the process that will follow, there will be a dialogue.
And on your question, no, we have not drafted any decisions. We have time to do that, but we will not draft anything until we really have a good landing zone together with the member states and together with Ukraine. And this has been a success story for this temporary protection directive so far, that we have this very close collaboration, me directly with the Ukrainian government, but also my service with the Ukrainian authorities, and that we have a unanimous decision among member states. And that was a clear willingness from member states to continue to have an EU approach, not a diverse approach with different member states. There was also, most of the member states had this attitude talking about a return-oriented approach. So to see how to facilitate. Of course, everything also depends on how the war will continue and when it will end and how it will end and when we can start the reconstruction of Ukraine. Of course, this has to be taken into account. These are things we don't know. But this was really the atmosphere. But I was very clear that the Commission will not table a proposal until we know that this is a proposal that is welcomed both by Ukraine and member states.
Hugo Santquin for the daily Belgian newspaper Le Soir. I'm sorry, it's not clear for me, but can the temporary protection be extended once again? And if not, what were the solutions proposed today? Can you be more precise? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, legally, according to also advice from the Commission, it would be possible to extend it. So it is, of course, one of the possibilities. We have to reflect on different scenarios. As the Commissioner already mentioned, we do not know yet where we will stand in March 2025. So this is important to reflect on different scenarios on the ground and to explore what kind of measures the EU would be able to take, either in the further protection if needed and as long as needed, or in helping displaced persons to rebuild their future.
If there's No more questions. I think everything was very clear. I would like to thank you all here in the room and online. Hope to see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.